when the red wave swept our nation in the last election, Minnesota remained stubbornly blue. The DFL continues to seek every opportunity to give the government more and more control of our lives and to take away more and more of our money in the process. And of course, they vilify any attempt to reduce government or allow free markets as dangerous or extreme. It's so bad that our current governor, he's openly, blatantly paying back his political allies, and he's not even really trying to hide the fact necessarily. He's not going to hide it at all. So, opposing the DFL's blatantly progressive agendas, bad enough. But sadly, our greater battles as a group seem to happen many times within the Republican Party. You know, when we first got involved, many of us in 08, many of us in 2012, maybe before then, we were assured by people that they didn't like us, not because of what we stood for or our principles, but the fact that we actually thought you could reduce government. They said, you need to carry the water for the elephant for a while. You need to stay here long enough to earn our trust and our respect and the respect of fellow Republicans. Until then, we're going to resist you. So, those of us in this room in particular did just that. We made phone calls, we stuffed envelopes, we did lit drops, we marched in parades. One of us drove a bus. Yes, that was Andrew Schmidt. We sacrificially gave up our time, our talents, and our treasure in some cases, many times for candidates that we didn't really like, in order to carry that water for the party. Well, sadly, it turns out that really wasn't the reason after all. About a month ago, I had a conversation with someone whom I'll describe as a very high-level Republican activist. And this person said to me, you libertarians, which of course I always love when it starts off with you libertarians, right? That's fabulous. You libertarians, you're great for local offices and like city council or even county commissioner, but your ideas don't work at the state and federal level. You guys you're just too analytical. You think things through too much. And that's just one example. This constant struggle is taking its toll. Members of our movement are simply giving up, dropping out of politics. I'm not talking about those who had incorrect notions of the political process to begin with. I'm talking about longtime activists. I'm talking about BPOU leadership. I'm talking about former state party officials. They're tired of enduring this circular firing squad that we are so often accused of perpetuating. And so the liberty movement continues to fight a battle on three fronts, really. The DFL, the Republican Party, and ourselves in the form of discouragement and apathy. Ironically, this same apathy is gripping the Republican Party as a whole. The malaise that overtook the party after the 2012 elections, it's gotten worse. We saw it in 2014. We see it even now. Another high-profile Republican activist told me recently that the apathy appears to be, in this person's words, exponential. So, what are we to think of this? Despite the assurances that the party's good, that we're on track to win everything someday, morale amongst the rank-and-file Republicans is at an all-time low. The disconnect between what the activists think our elected officials should be doing and what they actually do in Washington or in St. Paul has never been greater. People are so discouraged, so upset, that they're looking for anything, any sliver of hope, to feel like things are getting better. And with each setback, whether real or perceived, they lash out at our legislators. They become more jaded, more cynical, and they're less willing to participate. In fact, many of them are quitting. not going to another party, not getting involved with a candidate or focusing on a single issue. They're just quitting. So why is this happening? Why is the party of growth and opportunity slowly turning into what looks like the party of attrition and burnout? Now, I've been in software sales for around 14 years, and I can tell you from personal experience that you can sell, you can market, you can message, you can position something as much as you want, but in the end, at some point, you have to have a product to sell that people will buy. In my opinion, the Republican Party of Minnesota is struggling with a product problem. Now, what does that mean? I mean, come on, you've heard it before, right? The Republican Party stands for limited government. Yet, year after year, election after election, the size and scope of government at all levels continues to grow. And Republicans have the audacity, in some cases, some Republicans have the audacity to claim victory to say they shrunk the government, when in fact they just didn't grow it as much as the DFL wanted. You say, well, the Republican Party stands for free markets. Yet Republicans continue to insert government intervention into markets to favor one business over another, and to prevent certain types of businesses from being open on certain days. The Republican Party stands for individual rights, Neil. What are you talking about? Yet many still want government to control the personal moral behavior of others. In addition, we want to restrict the rights of those who've paid their debt to society only because we're afraid that if we gave them their rights back, they would vote Democratic. Well, if you felt that way about me, I probably would too. So, wait a second. Neil, what do you mean? Chairman Downey is calling on the DFL to give back all the tax surplus. And that's good. And I commend him for taking that bold stand. It's obviously a very unpopular stand, and it's even flying in the face of what some Republicans are planning to do. But the fact is he's taking that stand, and I commend him for that. But as Liberty people, I would like to take it a step further. I would say, give it all back, and don't take it all in the first place. Despite its recent efforts to upgrade and change its image, not the least of which includes that elephant, which I'm sorry, I don't like the stuffed elephant. I know people of you know who that is in the room here. I'm sorry, I don't like the cartoon elephant. Just gotta get it out there. You know what? Despite its efforts to change, the Republican Party continues, unfortunately, to live up to its reputation that it's the party of rich, old, white men who hate the poor, who hate minorities, who hate gays, and who hates anyone that's not a Christian. Put it another way, we're the party still of male, stale, and pale. You don't think the Republican Party in Minnesota has a product problem of some sort? Look at the numbers. Republicans haven't won a statewide election in nearly a decade. Our traditional base is literally dying off. And the demographic changes that are happening in our country and in the state, they don't bode well for us. Our party continues to be outspent 3-1 by the DFL, and while we remain saddled with $1.5 million in debt that we just can't seem to get out from under. I don't think that's a problem, by the way, with any one particular person. I think, in general, it's a product problem. Now, we've heard people, and these people are usually paid political consultants. They tell us principles don't matter. It's about winning elections. Now, I agree that we need to win elections. I'll tell you what, if we don't find a way to grow this party, if we don't find a way to increase the number of likely Republican voters, we'll never win another statewide election again. And at some point, we'll lose the legislature and we'll never get it back. This is where we come in. We have that product. We've had it all along. The principles of liberty, these radical notions that government should stay out of your wallet and out of your bedroom, represent the best way for people to live their lives. They also represent the best hope for the future of the Republican Party of Minnesota. Now, how can I say this? Because these principles do a couple of things. They form a solid, consistent foundation upon which we legislate and govern. Because these principles provide contrast, stark contrast, to the DFL's progressive agenda. Because these principles will result in the greatest economic boom the state has ever seen. And because these principles, most importantly, will give the GOP something that they haven't had in a long, long time, and that's the ability to win the emotional argument with voters. Now, do you know why most younger people vote Democrat? What do you think? You can't answer, Don. What do you think?
Because they think the Republican Party is just an old person party.
Okay, I already said that. But what single thing? I'm looking for something specific. Why do you think?
Social issues.
Social issues.
All right.
Thank you. That was not arranged in advance, trust me.
I'm not a plant.
Listen, I'm not even talking about abortion. Let that sink in for a second. Young people are willing to blindly follow the DFL and allow them to steal much of their earnings and ultimately their economic liberty because they think the DFL is nicer and more inclusive and they treat people better. And listen, giving them a history lesson about how great the GOP was back in the day doesn't help. And it doesn't move the needle with these young people. Imagine what this party would be like. In fact, imagine what this state would be like if that weren't an issue. I mean, imagine if the DFL couldn't claim the high ground on these social issues and on civil liberties issues. What would they have left? We're going to take more of your money. Think about that. If the Republican Party, from the newest activist to the highest ranking legislator, embraced these principles, articulated them to voters, and translated them into meaningful legislation, they will not only genuinely make people's lives better, we will become the majority party in this state. Obviously, as you all are painfully aware, these changes don't happen all at once, or overnight, or in a year. Look, it took the DFL decades to achieve their goals and to turn this state into solid blue. But I do know this. If we in this room quit now, things will definitely never change. The Republican Liberty Caucus will continue its efforts to move this party in the direction it needs to go and to support you, the activists, in these efforts. We will continue our efforts to teach voters the difference between freedom and control and why freedom is better than control. We'll continue to work with legislators to make our state more free, and we'll continue to find good liberty candidates to win Republican elections, to run for office and win elections. In addition, we are in the beginning stages of planning a massive effort to turn out new voters for the caucuses coming up in 2016, and really beyond. But ultimately, it's up to us in this room, individually. Look, people, we're it. We are all, in my opinion, we are all that stands between the Republican Party of Minnesota and its demise. We have the best product. We provide the last and best opportunity for the Republican Party to restore liberty in the state. And we have to find ways to message and market and sell that product to the public and to our party. Now, you're going to hear from other speakers today that will give a lot of details, different ideas about how we'll accomplish that. But I'll close with this. Many of us in this room have our personal motivations for staying involved in politics, especially when it's brutal, especially when we get nagged one more time by one more well-meaning but misinformed person who thinks we're evil. I have 3 children. You've met 2 of them. They were the people out doing registration, my daughter Megan and my son Nelson. My middle child, Chris, couldn't make it today. 2 years ago, Chris came out. She's gay. Now, can you imagine what kind of life she would live if she was in the home of a lot of the Republicans that we know? But because of the path that I've taken, because I've embraced these principles of liberty, I'm able to have a conversation with her about individual rights and about the government's involvement in certain things and about freedom of choice. I can have these conversations with her. I don't know how many else could in that circumstance. But here's what I'll say in closing, is I'm doing this because I don't know what Chris... Let me ask you this. What do you think Chris is going to do next year? She just turned 18, by the way. When she gets to vote next year, what party do you think she's going to stand for? What party do you think she's going to vote for? I'm doing this because I want all of my children to experience the liberty and the freedom that I haven't been able to yet, and I want them someday to say to anybody who asks, I am proud to be a Republican. Thank you.